PS Tracks organizes your department's operational checks, all of your vehicles, equipment, and tools into a single platform that you can access from any web-enabled device. We're going to log in at app1.pstracks.com and enter the username and password provided by our administrator. Now, when I log in, my home station is going to be set to the apparatus pool, and my landing page is set to station home, which allows me to see the checks, alerts, and journal entries associated with the station. However, you're going to be able to customize your home station and landing page in your user settings, which can be accessed by clicking your name in the top right corner and going to user settings. We'll go over that in a bit more detail in just a moment. Now, as I mentioned, there are three panels on the station homepage. The checks panel is going to show us any inspections that are scheduled to be completed today. It's also going to give us the ability to log any as-needed inspections in case we have to log something after an incident or after our regular scheduled checks have already been completed. The alerts panel is going to show us any open issues associated with the vehicles or equipment at this station. And the journal is going to display any announcements, pass-ons, or other relevant station information. Now, I'm accessing this from a desktop computer right now, but note that the screen is going to resize to fit the device you're using, regardless of your preferred device or browser. So if you look at PS Tracks on a phone, which I'll do here by just using this little tool, we can see here that there's not really any pinching or zooming. What's going to happen is those panels are going to turn into tabs, which you can swipe right or left to access that different information. If I look at this as if I was on a tablet, I got to zoom in here a little bit so we can see that a bit better. You can see it's going to do the same thing here. We'll just close out of that. Now, as I previously mentioned here, you can access your user settings by clicking your name and going to user settings right up here. Now, it's recommended for firefighters that you change your home station to whatever station you're assigned to typically, and your login landing page should be station home. For our engineers, it's recommended that you set your home station to the apparatus pool, which we'll go through in just a moment, and then change your landing page to either the Fleet Status Report mobile view, if you're accessing PS Tracks most frequently from a phone or tablet, or the table view if you're going to be accessing the site most frequently from a computer. Now, even though I don't have the Fleet Status Report set as my home page or my landing page, I can access it by going to Vehicle and Station, Fleet Status Report Mobile in my navigation panel. Now, we've designed this Fleet Status Report mobile view so that you can easily search and find the specific apparatus that you're checking off. It's extremely important that the mechanical checks are performed on the correct vehicle so that you're complying with any DOT regulations and so you have an accurate history of that vehicle. And since vehicles are regularly swapped out for reserves, Mesa has elected to move all of these apparatus into a single station called Apparatus Pool. Viewing the apparatus pool from the Fleet Status Report, as opposed to viewing it from that station home screen, allows you to quickly search for the vehicle you're inspecting. So rather than scrolling through a long list here, I can just type out the bumper number. I'll just use my test site or my test vehicle here of 1234, and it's going to pull that information into the list. Now, once we've identified the vehicle that we need to inspect, we're going to see that there are 207 vehicle checks and there are 0 asset checks here. Now, the vehicle check is going to be any of your mechanical checks or your small tool and small power tool equipment checks, anything that's on the truck that you may need to do your job with. The asset checks are going to be a list of your high dollar assets, things like drug boxes, radios, heart monitors, tablets. Most of these assets are actually going to be assigned to the crew and not to the individual truck. The reason for that is it's assumed that these assets will follow the crew when you have to switch into a reserve unit. Most of these asset checks are going to be actually logged from the station page as opposed to the Fleet Status Report page, and those would show up with a crew of number here. So what this means is there's 22 assets associated with engine 201, regardless of the bumper number of the vehicle that is in engine 201 at that point. We're going to go through all of that in a different video. Right now, we're just going to focus on the vehicle checks. So I'm going to plug in 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to click into the number of vehicle checks that are due. Now, depending on which vehicle checks are due on that day, you might have multiple checklists to check off here. So I have a lot of tasks on this day just to kind of show you what we're looking at here. We've got our daily mechanical check, which is going to show up for us every day. We've got our weekly mechanical check, which is going to show up for us on Saturdays. We have a non-powered small tool equipment checklist that's going to be completed on the first Saturday of the month. And then powered equipment and SCBA checklist also on the first Saturday. Now, when you typically log in, you're just going to see your daily checks unless you happen to log in on a Saturday or the first Saturday of the month, in which case you would see these additional checklists here. The tasks are going to be organized into this checklist section, which is in dark blue. And then within each of those checklists, we have task groups, which show in a slightly lighter blue. And then we have these individual tasks that need to be checked off here. As you complete each task, you can click this green check mark. You can also click into the body of the task, so you don't have to hit that green check mark, which comes in really handy if you're on a phone or tablet. If a task requires a log note, for instance, an odometer reading where you have to input information in here, you would just plug in that information and then proceed with your check. You can also expand the notes field on any task, even if there are no notes required. So you can just click this pencil icon here and input any notes about that inspection. The eyeball icon is going to show us the recent task history. It's basically going to show us the last 5 times this task was logged. This way we can see who logged the tasks previously, and then any notes that were added in have been documented in this section. So if during the course of your check you see something odd, you can click that eyeball icon and check the notes to see if anybody commented on it previously. Now, to make things a bit quicker for you, we've enabled a check all box, which is going to select all of the tasks within a given task group. You're still required to verify that you've completed each task and add any notes as needed, but this way you don't have to click on each task individually here. Now, periodically, we're going to want to click this continue button to save our progress. Remember that the more tasks you log at one time, the longer it's going to take to process that in the database. It should just be a handful of seconds here, but we recommend logging after every few sections. So instead of logging 200 tasks at one time, maybe you log in 4 or 5 batches of 40 to 50 tasks. On this page here, we can add additional notes if we didn't add them on the previous screen. And once we click log tasks, it's going to document those tasks and move them forward to the next day that they're due. In this case, tomorrow, because this is a daily check. Now, what happens if we find an issue while performing your truck check? In that case, depending on the severity of the issue, you can either add a note, as mentioned above, to document that, or if it's severe enough, you're going to want to set an alert. Alerts provide the ability to document issues, malfunctions, or deficiencies so that crews on different shifts have visibility into what's going on with the truck, and also so maintenance has a record of which items to check during the vehicle's next PM. You can see here we've got some open alerts set on this test apparatus, and you can kind of scroll through them to see what issues are currently open. Now, before we set any alerts, there are a few notes regarding your specific alert workflow at Mesa. If the issue is urgent and prevents you from doing your job or starting or operating the vehicle in a safe manner, you must call the maintenance shop to report the issue. So we can see we have this right here. We also have this on the alert form, which we'll get to in just a moment. If the issue doesn't interfere with the normal operation of the unit, but it's something that needs a mechanic's attention during the next PM, then you could set an alert for that issue and set the appropriate category, but you don't have to accompany it with a phone call. If the issue is just a normal occurrence of daily maintenance, so maybe you put half a quart of oil into the engine, that's not really alert worthy. What you'd want to do instead is use that notes field, enter any notes, activity or maintenance or what fix you applied here. And then the other people who are performing the check after you are going to see that, hey, is this a rare event, or maybe it's the beginning of a potential problem. And that's going to show in that recent task history by clicking that eyeball icon. So let's go through here and set an alert. So maybe I'm not going to set an alert on that one. Let's just say we're going down our checks here, And once we get to the emergency lights, maybe the horn is shorting out and it's not working properly for us. We're going to click on the red triangle next to that task. It's going to automatically pop open our notes field, and then we're going to input notes about the issue. So I'll put note horn is shorting out. Maybe anything you try to do to resolve the issue would go in here as well. And then we're going to hit continue, just like we did before when we were logging our tasks without an alert. Now in this case, we're going to log our tasks just as we did before, and we're going to be taken to an alert form where we can select the appropriate category and add some more details. Now, anything that fails the inspection, anything that's out of service criteria, must be accompanied by a phone call. So essentially anything in the mechanical check is automatically going to be categorized in this vehicle maintenance urgent phone call required category. All those items in the mechanical checklist are deemed out of service criteria, which means that a phone call needs to be made. But if you have other alerts like minor deficiencies or missing equipment, a phone call is not going to be required. However, if the item is critical to your job, you can report it to Resource or Small Tools or your BC if you need to get something replaced. You can add additional comments here if you wish. You're going to leave the priority as routine, even if it's an urgent vehicle maintenance issue. The priority is not going to be monitored, and so it's been asked that you don't change that to urgent. And then you could add any attachments associated with the alert, maybe a picture from your phone or tablet of that issue, just for additional documentation. The alert verification section is custom for you at Mesa, and it's designed to reiterate that any out-of-service criteria issues should be accompanied by a phone call to maintenance. Those non-essential issues, as we mentioned before, those minor deficiencies or missing equipment alerts should be documented, but you don't have to accompany them with a phone call. We're going to input our initials to confirm here. We're going to leave the cost blank. That's going to be filled out later if you have to order parts or that sort of thing. Now note that the alert recipients at the bottom of the form, these are designed to send an email or text message to the appropriate personnel, but based on your workflow at Mesa, the recipients have not been set up. We still need to document the alert and set it, but maintenance, resource, or your BC should be contacted depending on the type of alert. You can deselect your name from that list if you don't wish to receive a notification about this specific alert or any updates in the future related to that alert. Once everything is documented, we're going to click Set Alert, and we're going to be returned to where we left off on the checklist so we can keep going through our checks. Now note that anytime there's already an open alert associated with a task, you'll see a red bell icon next to it. You can click on this icon to view the details of that alert. If the problem's accurately described, you don't have to set a new alert for this. You can actually just log it with the green check mark to indicate the alert's correct, and that's going to clear that item off the list until the next time that it's due. However, if the problem has changed or grown since the last inspection, you can add additional comments to that issue, indicating what those changes are. Or if the issue's been resolved, you can go ahead and close the alert. So let's say in this case, the alert got closed by maintenance, or maintenance actually corrected the issue, but they just didn't close the alert here. We can just put issue resolved by maintenance, close that alert out, and hit save. Now in this case, it just requires a quick refresh here for that red bell icon to disappear. We can see that's no longer there. Now, note that alerts are not constantly being monitored, but it's really important to document any issues you find. Maintenance is going to try and close those mechanical alerts when the truck leaves the shop, but it's ultimately the responsibility of the crews to close the alerts that have already been fixed and are therefore no longer applicable. Now, once all of your checks are completed, we've gone through everything here, we've logged them, they're all going to roll forward until the next time that they're due.